Thank you. Thank you everyone for coming to our public meeting number 1 for the update of our Kauai long-range land transportation plan. It's great to see you all here today. We appreciate you taking time out of your lunch hour to spend with us. And we're excited to hear your input and learn about your priorities, concerns, and needs. So before we get into this, the meat of the slides, we wanted to do some introductions of the project team. So I'm Rachel Roper Noonan. I oversee long range planning. Couldn't figure out what I did for a second. But I oversee long range planning among a bunch of other things here in the highways planning branch. And then we have our project manager for this effort, Austin Rose. Austin, can you wave? I just have a small screen, so I can't tell.
Hello.
And then also, I don't believe our planning head for highways was able to attend today, but Ken Tatsuguchi and also Dean Matsui are also on our project team. And here today we have Harley and Harley Shimhukso and Richard Wallenbecker who are also helping out. And then from our consultant team, we have our consultant project manager, Kathleen Chu, as well as Kara Kadota, senior planner, both from Bowers and Kubota. And then from our Jacobs team, we have Bobby Guo, transportation planner, Heather Fujioka, senior transportation modeler, and Dan Sita. I don't think Dan was able to attend today, but he has been working with us. Sorry, let me just double check our attendance list. So later in the meeting, hopefully Larry Dill will be able to attend. He wanted to, but I think he got tied up in another meeting. He's our highways administrator and formerly the district engineer for the district of Kauai. And thank you. I see Michael Mole from the county of Kauai attending, along with Paul Lafarga from FHWA. And so and then several members of our stakeholder committees. So thank you. And also a big thank you to Shelly Kunishige from our public affairs office for helping us put all this together. So enough with introductions. Let's get into the actual, presentation slides. So I'll turn it over to the next person.
Good morning, everyone. Or I guess it's afternoon now, technically. But thank you for joining us. As Rachel said, we really appreciate your time today. This slide shows our agenda and goals for today's meeting. And by the end of this meeting, we hope that everyone has a common understanding of the project and the purpose and need for the Regional Long Range Land Transportation Plan. Today, we're also going to review existing and forecast conditions for the island of Kauai, share the regional land transportation goals and objectives, and go over some of the ways that you can provide your feedback on needs and opportunities that should be considered for the plan. But before we start, just some quick meeting protocols that we'd like to ask everyone to follow. Please keep your computer and phone on mute. Try to use the raise hand function on MS Teams to speak, and feel free to use the chat room to share your thoughts. And as we go through the presentation today, you'll also see that we have other ways for you to share your input as well. And I'm going to turn it over to Austin, who's going to start off with some of the project background and purpose.
Yeah, project background and purpose. So the purpose of updating the regional long-range land transportation plan, well, you can see we've got a couple of them. We are hoping to address the future land transportation needs based on land use and socioeconomic projections through 2045, provide a basis for making informed land transportation decisions, define goals, needs, and recommend multimodal strategies, as well as set the direction for land transportation system improvements for which priorities and funding can be developed. The HDOT family of plans. So HDOT is responsible for setting transportation policy and through operating and maintaining the statewide transportation system. To support the range of activities, the HDOT family of plans incorporates everything that you kind of see here. So starting with policy direction, development of policy direction occurs through the Hawaii Statewide Transportation Plan, or HSTP. It identifies the broad transportation policies to be considered in the development, management, and operation of Hawaii's transportation systems over air, water, and land. Long-range planning is developed through airports, harbors, and regional land transportation system planning. The systems plan identify long-range transportation needs for each mode or region. For this effort, we are updating the regional long-range land transportation plan, as starred there at the bottom. This plan sets the direction for the region or island, in this case, Kauai, Kauai's land transportation plans. In urbanized areas, the Metropolitan Planning Organization leads the preparation of long-range land transportation plans, such as on Oahu or Maui. Moving on from system plans to capital programs and operating plans, these encompass mid and short range planning, including the Statewide Transportation Improvement Program, or STIP, Transportation Improvement Program, TIP, Capital Improvement Program, CIP, as well as Airports and Harbors Programming. Lastly, we have implementation. Implementation includes a range of actions from environmental studies, design, operations, and maintenance, all of which provide feedback to our policies so that there is a continuous feedback loop. After a project or projects are complete, data is collected to help inform future decision-making. I'll let Harley jump in.
Hi, everyone. To update the Kauai Long-Range Land Transportation Plan, multiple stakeholder committees and the public will be consulted throughout the planning process. Our consultation and outreach efforts will align with the HDOT Highway's public involvement guiding principles, which are to build public trust, to provide early and continuous information and input, to ensure that there's consistency and coordination, to utilize various public involvement strategies, techniques, and methods, and ensure all consultation and outreach efforts are well documented. To consult with the public, we intend to conduct virtual meetings, establish and update a project website, conduct online surveys, use news media tools, correspond through email, phone calls, and letters, and conduct outreach to targeted communities such as youth groups, Native Hawaiian communities, and socially vulnerable communities. This slide shows our work plan for this effort. It reflects a step-by-step process with stakeholder involvement all along the way. We plan to conduct another public meeting towards the second half of this year. I'm going to turn it back over to Kathleen now.
Thanks, Harley. Now we're going to present an overview of existing and future baseline land transportation system conditions for the island of Kauai. This focuses on regional transportation infrastructure and travel demands, and will also include a description of the transportation systems, land use, socioeconomic characteristics, and system performance. Now, the regional land transportation system focuses on regional transportation and applies only to the federal aid highway system. So as you know, Kauai's roadway network includes two major highways that extend from Lihue, which is the hub of Kauai County, around the perimeter of the island in both directions. These highways serve as a primary belt access between the islands, towns, and communities, and are connected to a network of minor arterials and collector roadways that provide further local access. So on this map that you see here today, what you see is our Kauai's federal aid system. So the yellow roads are your primary arterials, and these are your main roads such as Kamuali'i Highway and Kuhio Highway. Minor arterials are in pink. Or actually, sorry, minor arterials are in green, and these will include kind of Kamuali'i Highway and Kuhio Highway as you extend further away from the town center. And major collectors are in blue, and minor collector is like in a darker blue. Okay, next slide. So bicycles are increasingly being recognized not only as a recreational activity, but a viable transportation mode. This map shows the existing and proposed bikeways on the island. There's approximately 22.2 miles of existing bikeways. The Bike Plan Hawaii Refresh estimates that approximately 5.7 miles of proposed new bikeways will be added. As shown here, bike facilities can generally be described as any improvement or provision made by public agencies to accommodate bicycling. So this would include pathways, bike lanes, and shared sign roadways. Next. So pedestrian facilities are also a critical part of the transportation system. For every trip that is made, a portion occurs as pedestrian travel. The Kauai County General Plan identifies improving the multimodal land transportation system. Excuse me, sorry. Sorry about that. As one of the objectives under the land transportation sector. One of the goals listed under this objective is to increase walking trips to 11.5% of total trips by 2035, using 2010 as the baseline. Pedestrian facilities can generally be described as any infrastructure that's designed specifically to accommodate pedestrians. These include sidewalks, crosswalks, and pathways. So this map that you see here shows the existing pedestrian system. Next, please. Public transit provides an opportunity for personal mobility for anyone, regardless of age, income, social, or physical status. Additionally, public transit benefits overall quality of life through reduced traffic congestion and improved air quality. It also provides a modal alternative for those who are unable or choose not to drive. Kauai Bus operates a public fixed route bus service and a paratransit door-to-door bus service from Hanalei to Kekaha daily. The fixed route service includes mainline service, which covers longer distance and primarily operates along the highways and arterial streets. Shuttle service covers a smaller geographic area with tighter spacing between the stops, and these are usually focused around some town centers. Paratransit service is available for qualified individuals, including persons 65 and older and registered with the County Transportation Agency, and individuals certified and registered under the American with Disabilities Act. Service days and hours are the same as a public transportation, and requires reservations 24 hours in advance for door-to-door pickups. Another important part of the transportation system is our freight. Freight mobility is critical to economic vitality of the island. Freight activities are concentrated around commercial harbors and utilize many of the arterial roadways to transport goods to market throughout the islands. This map shows the primary freight highway system in pink and critical urban freight corridors in blue and critical rural freight corridors in green. Kauai has two commercial harbors, one at Nawiliwili and the other at Port Allen Harbor. Vehicles that carry freight from Nawiliwili Harbor use Nawiliwili Road and Rice Street to distribute goods to business within Lihue. Port Allen Harbor is located on the south side of the island in Hanapepe Bay. Waialo Road provides the main access between the harbor and Kamuali'i Highway, which serves as a primary transport route for freight destined to businesses, commercial businesses, and industrial areas of the island. Cargo is also received at Lihue Airport, which is then transported through the rest of the island via Kapuli Highway to Rice Street or Nawiliwili Street, and then onward to Kamuali'i Highway and Kuhio Highway. And next, I'm going to turn it over to Kara.
Thanks, Kathleen. So land use also plays a significant factor when planning for the island's transportation system. This map on the slide shows the state land use districts for Kauai. The state land use districts outline allowable development and constraints that affect transportation demands, infrastructure, and services. So as you can see here, most of the island is within conservation districts, as shown in green. That comprises approximately 56% of the island. And then approximately 39% of Kauai's land use is within the agricultural districts, shown in yellow. We also have urban land use districts, and that's about 4% of the land area concentrated around the towns and residential communities as shown in red. And then lastly, we have rural districts, which make up less than 1% of the island and are located throughout as shown in purple. At a regional level, the County of Kauai's Planning Department administers the long-range plans for the 5 planning districts within the county, as shown here on this map. So as part of the update to the regional long-range plan, we'll ensure that our plan aligns with the community plans for each of these districts. Socioeconomic characteristics of the islands also influence transportation demands and need to be considered in the provision of transportation infrastructure and services. So socioeconomic data provides information on trip generation and destinations. Trips are typically generated between households and destinations related to employment, education, shopping, or recreational activities. This table here summarizes the population within Kauai County by districts. Over half of the island's population resides on the east half of the island within Lihue and East Kauai districts in the communities of Lihue, Kapa'a, and Wailua. The Waimea, Hanapepe, and Ele'ele districts on the west coast include the smaller communities. Each of them comprise of less than 10% of the island's total population. This table here summarizes the household growth within Kauai County by districts. The total number of households on the island is expected to increase by 20% by 2045. The South Kauai district would experience the highest percentage of household growth compared to all the other districts. By 2045, the number of occupied households in the Lihue district is anticipated to increase by over 1,500 units, or about 29%, compared to existing conditions, 2020. Households in the East Kauai district would grow by over 600 units by 2045, and the South Kauai district would grow by over 1,900 units by 2045, compared to existing conditions. So this map kind of just illustrates that information just shared on the previous slide. It shows a comparison of where the existing number of households are against the forecasted 2045 households. The lighter purple colors represent the lower range of number of households, and then the darker represents the higher range. So as previously mentioned, there's more growth shown here in East Kauai and the Lihue area. Next, we have forecast employment within the county by districts. So Lihue is expected to support nearly half of the island's job opportunities in the future and will remain the island's primary employment center. In the Hui district, compared to 2020 conditions, approximately 7,500 additional jobs are expected by the year 2045. The South and East Kauai districts are expected to see over a 15% increase in employment by 2045. So kind of similar, this map just shows the information that was previously shared, shows a comparison of the existing number of employment and then the forecasted 2045 employment. So when updating the plan, we'll also look at social vulnerability and the potential needs and opportunities in the communities that have a higher social vulnerability ranking. To do this, we'll look at the US DOT's Equitable Transportation Community Explorer. It's an interactive web application that uses 2020 census tracts and data to explore the cumulative burden communities experience as a result of underinvestment in transportation. It looks at the 5 components in transportation insecurity, climate and disaster risk burden, environmental burden, health vulnerability, and social vulnerability. So this tool is really to allow every community in the country to understand the burden it faces that transportation investments can mitigate or reverse. So based on the tool, the census tracts in the Hanalei region, the Hanapepe region, Oma'o region, and Lihue experience the greatest social vulnerability. Then I'll turn it over to Kathleen.
Thanks, Kara. So the performance of the existing roadway network is described often in terms of volume to capacity ratio, or what people often say is V over C. It's also referred to as the level of service, or LOS. The level of service it generally describes operating conditions on the roadway based on a variety of measures, such as delay, speed, and density. There are 6 LOS classifications, each given a letter designation from A to F. So LOS A represents ideal operating conditions with little or no delay and where movements are not influenced by other vehicles on the roadway. At the other end, LOS F represents poor operating conditions, which include high delays and extreme congestion. So in 2020, the existing conditions, and this is, I know some of you might be thinking that we looked at these conditions during COVID, but we did look at these conditions with pre-COVID data. So in 2020, about 6% of the transportation network experiences volume to capacity ratios of 1 or more, which means they operate at a level of service F. 42% of all lane miles classified as principal arterials operated at LOSF. So it should be noted that the PM peak travel times represent the worst level of service throughout the day. These congested segments occurred on Kuhio Highway between Lihue and Kapa'a, as well as on Kamoali'i Highway between Lihue and Omao. At both of these locations, the daily traffic volumes are at or exceed the capacity of the roadway. Now, Lihue is the employment center of the island, and therefore it does attract high vehicle volumes on a typical day. But also due to the unique belt highway system on Kauai, all traffic into or out of town must use either Kuhio Highway or Kamoali'i Highway. So congestion does occur because all the traffic is forced to use the single axis from either direction. Next slide. So the map on this slide just shows the estimated PM peak vehicle travel times from Lihue to other locations on the island in 2020. So for example, from Lihue, an average vehicle trip to North Kauai or West Kauai would take between 36 to 55 minutes, while trips to the east or south would take just under 30 minutes. Then next, we looked at our forecast conditions. So we look at what traffic would be like in 2045. So this table summarizes the performance of the future modeled roadway system. The forecast increase in congested lane miles indicates an increase in vehicles on the Kauai roadway network in 2045. In 2020, if you recall, 6% of the modeled roadway experienced a level of service F. This trend continues to get worse in 2045, where 13% of the network is at level of service F. And again, this assumes that we're using the exact same roadway network. And so there's been no roadway improvement projects. But similar to 2020 conditions, most of the LOF facilities are classified as the principal arterials, with 69% of all principal arterial miles operating at level of service F. So this map here shows the 2045 forecast daily. And so you can just see by the thickened red lines that congestion, especially around Lihue, will continue to get worse. Next slide. So also looking at our travel time in 2045, this map on the slide depicts the estimated PM peak vehicle travel times from Lihue to other locations on the island. So in 2045, PM peak hour travel times from Lihue would increase compared to the existing conditions in 2020. So now the travel times to North Kauai or West Kauai would take between 69 to 147 minutes compared to 36 to 55 minutes, while an average vehicle trip to the east or south would take 30 minutes to an hour and a half compared to travel times of around 30 minutes. Okay. Next slide. Another thing that we looked at is safety. So we like to look at the crashes and where they're occurring. So the DOT compiles crash data for the state and county roadways and intersections. And this map shows crash hotspots from 2019 to 2022. So as you can see, most of the crash hotspots are along these principal arterial roadways, including Kamali'i Highway, Kohio Highway, and Kapuli Highway, through the towns of Kapa'a, Wailua, Lihue, and around Hanapepe, Ele. Okay, so that kind of concludes us going through the forecasts and existing conditions. I think I see a question came up. Is the 2020 updated plans new baseline for traffic counts and travel times, given travel was so different in 2020 compared to so we did look at in the 2020. So when we started this plan, if you recall, it was we started this plan towards the end of 23. And so we did use pre-pandemic, and what we're seeing in 2024 is that the amount of travel has post-pandemic equals pre-pandemic, and in some locations has even exceeded pre-pandemic. So I hope that answers your question. So now we're going to focus on goals and objectives. So these goals that the DLT has put together for this effort correspond to goals that have been identified in the statewide long-range land transportation plan, as well as the DLT's Highways Act 100, which is a report that they provide to the state legislature every year. We're going to go over each of the goals and share some of the objectives for the goal, and also share some statistics or information related to these goals to give you some context and background. So the first goal is to improve safety and security. And the first goal, the objectives under this goal include reducing fatalities and serious injuries, providing motorized emergency access, and improving the security of the transportation infrastructure. So Kauai had a decrease in serious injury crashes by an average of 7% from 2019 to 2020. And compared to the number of fatalities that occur across the state, Kauai experienced a relatively low number of fatalities. However, there was an increase in fatalities from 2 to 9 from 2021 to 2022. Go out. What I'll do is we'll answer the questions at the end of this section. So, but if you guys continue to have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Goal 2. The second goal is to foster system preservation. Objectives under this goal include improving pavement condition, improving bridge conditions, and implementing management programs for other assets as well. So this slide shows the National Highway System bridge and pavement conditions on Kauai. Right now, about 89% of bridges are in fair or better condition, and all of the pavement is in fair or better condition. Next slide. Our third goal is to improve system efficiency. Since we are an island state with varying geography, there are unique challenges and constraints that we face when creating additional transportation infrastructure to serve the needs of an increasing population. And this is especially true for Kauai, as you've seen in the forecast slides, there's only one way to drive around the island. So some of the objectives here is to implement congestion relief strategies, improve the efficiency of motorized access, and to improve travel time reliability. Next slide. The fourth goal is to integrate multimodal networks. The objective for this goal is to apply the Complete Streets policy, improve access and connectivity of pedestrian facilities, as well as improved access and connectivity of bicycle facilities. The strategies include implementing the Complete Streets policy and also implementing the statewide pedestrian master plan, as well as the statewide bike plan. Next slide. So our fifth goal is to encourage economic vitality. This goal will have objectives focused around transportation for our commuter workforce, for our freight, and our other services. It works on integrating transportation plans and policies with other agencies, as well as optimizing our project delivery. Next goal. And our last goal is to advance resiliency. This is an important goal for Kauai, as the island is vulnerable to severe weather events, and there are many areas where the road runs along coastal areas which will be impacted by future sea level rise. This table and map are from the DLT's Climate Adaptation Action Plan. The red lines on the map show where highways are exposed to climate hazards, which could be any of the climate hazards shown on this table. This table shows the percentages of roads and bridges across the state that are vulnerable for climate-related hazards. So the objectives for this goal is to implement climate change and natural hazards adaptation measures, reduce our ground transportation emissions, and to protect the environment and natural resources. Okay. And so before we go to our next section, I'll look at the question from Tim Martin. Do you have a breakdown for traffic counts of rental cars versus residential cars? When we do the travel demand model, we look at all cars, but we can get a breakdown of rental cars from the rental car agencies and from the state. So we can look at what those numbers are. Okay, I'll turn it over to you right now, Kara.
Thanks, Kathleen. So now we just want to share 2 ways that you can provide feedback on the needs and opportunities that you think should be included in the plan. So the first way to provide feedback is through a web map tool, which we'll share a link to in the chat. So let me just pull it up. So when you click on the link, this is the page I'll take you to. And then you can see here, we just have a brief description of each of the 6 goals that we just went over and some examples of some of the needs and opportunities that you might want to identify. So if you want to put a point on the map, you can just click on one of the dots here that correspond to the goal that you would like to provide input on. So just an example, click the safety and security one. And then you can just put it where you think safety and security need is. So just put it here. I know this was like a high crash intersection. So then you can just type in your name, your organization, then maybe just a comment on what you think the need or issue or opportunity is. So maybe just put high crash area, safety, movement needed, something like that. And then you can just press save. Then the dot should appear here. And then if you want
So
to,
oh,
I was just gonna say, if you want to delete it or if you put something in the wrong place, you can just click on the dot and then delete it. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
so I was gonna just say the link for this web app tool is provided, but if it's hard to navigate, feel free to just share with us right now. This is an opportunity for us to really just hear from all of you. Where do you think there is a need? Maybe something we missed that we're unaware of, or is there an opportunity to do something better? So you can feel free to just raise your hand or type it into the chat and we'll make sure it gets included. So I do see your question, Tim. On average, what percentage of vehicles on our roadways at any time is rentals? And I don't have an answer for you right now, but we can get back to you on that. And then Annie is saying, is the Web 2 open to the public? And it is. The Web 2 is open to the public. And so maybe another thing that we can do right now, Kara, is maybe we can also, as you see, the link to the tool was put up, but maybe what we can do is we can also show you the project website, and we can put a link of the project website in the chat. And so this, you can also see how we can navigate through the project website. So right now we are updating 3 plans. One is the overall statewide plan. One is the plan, the island of Kauai long range plan, and we're also doing the Big Island long range plan. So what you would do is you would click click on the Kauai tab, and then here you can also see some of the information that was presented. But if you scroll down, there's a survey that you can take, and this is open to the public. We encourage you all, to take the survey, and then also, so it's a quick survey, and then also right below that is the map tool link, so that anyone can enter and put in information. Okay, let's see. Do we have any hands up? I don't see any hands up, but anything in the chat. Okay, great. Wailua Bridge. Okay. We will add Wailua Bridge down as kind of a need that, and its exposure to erosion. So thank you for that. That has been raised before as well. So thank you for that. Does anyone else have any kind of areas where there's a lot of congestion, or maybe intersections or bicycle or pedestrian opportunities that they want to mention? Well, you can take your time and feel free to complete the survey at your leisure. Encourage your friends and families and everyone to fill out the survey, as well as go ahead and get on the map, this map app that we provided. And then you can also always email us to provide any comments that you might have, and we can input it there as well. Okay, great feedback. I'm glad you guys are typing some feedback into the chat, so that's wonderful. So the just to clarify, the travel times that we shared are during the PM peak. So right now, for the island of Kauai, the PM peak delay is worse than the AM peak. So that's why we shared the PM peak. Okay, but this is great feedback. So please continue to share this type of information. Again, in the chat, via the app, via slide surveys, or also email. So I'll just share some of the next steps too, while you guys can continue to share your feedback in the chat. But so again, we just really encourage to hear from all of you on future regional needs and opportunities. Try to complete the online survey and spread the word as much as you can. And on our end, what we're going to do is we're going to continue to compile the information we hear from you and start working on the draft regional plan and how we can address it as well. And on the next slide, it does have some email addresses. So you can also feel free to email the project manager, Austin Rose. You can also contact Rachel Roper Noonan, and you can also contact myself, Kathleen Chu. But I did really want to thank you all for your time and feedback this afternoon. And if you have any questions, again, just let us know. We're going to stay on the line to see if there are any other questions you guys may have. Oh, I see a hand up. Go ahead.
Hi there, my name's Sequoia. So you, among other things, you show some pretty dire predictions for the 2045 on basically how congested things are going to be. Are you even going to talk about any proposed solutions for all this, or are we just looking at, it's just going to get bad and get ready for it? Like, what are you all thoughts? What can you share with us about the directions that you're seeing going and what to do about situations like this? Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, that's a great point. So right now, if we think about the process right now, with the gathering data, and we're in the discovery phase, we're looking at where are those hotspots, right? So now we know where the most congested areas are. And then what we wanted to hear from the public is maybe there's locations or other areas that we miss. So we gather all these needs, and the next step, exactly as you said, is to come up with solutions. What are is there bus transit solutions? Is there capacity needs? Is another lane needed? So then we will start. The next step for us is exactly to start looking at those solutions. So those models that you saw does assume that there's no change or no change in the roadway. And we do know that, in 20 years, there will be improvements. So those improvements have not been included in that model. But the next steps would be to propose some solutions and strategies and to see how it'll help. But great question. I see a lot of questions like for East Kauai about the contraflow and Wailua Bridge. And so that is definitely, we know there's a lot of congestion there. So there will definitely be opportunities and projects proposed for that side of the island. A multi-use path between Keka'a and Waimea. Wonderful, we'll add that. Are there plans to move the roads inland in the light of climate change and hazards? I think, as we do think about long term, it's not just the roads that need to get considered, but the land use as well. So that is an opportunity to look and study the climate adaptation or even mitigation strategies as needed. But those are opportunities that we can put into this plan. But that kind of concludes our meeting for today. But again, we'll just stay on in case more questions come up. But thank you again so much for providing your feedback and for taking the time to join this meeting. Rachel or Austin, did you guys want to say anything in closing as well?
Sure. Thanks, Kathleen. Yeah, we just wanted to say on behalf of our project team, thank you so much for attending. We really appreciated hearing all of your input and look forward to sharing the next steps of the plan in a few months. So thank you, and we hope you have a great week. And like Kathleen said, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us, and please complete the survey so we can learn more.
Hey, Bev, go ahead.
Hey, Kathleen, I'm just wondering what the timeline is on completion of the plan. Like, how long will you be accepting feedback and suggestions? I'd like to pass this out to our networks and the community at large. And just was wondering if I could possibly tell them what the timeline is, what the time frame is for being able to submit suggestions or concerns.
So we're gonna take in comments probably for the next three to 4 weeks. But then, I mean, people can always email, but we're gonna start moving forward with the next step with solutions. But people can continue to provide feedback. But we're hoping for focused feedback. There is another public meeting Thursday evening at 6 p.m. We know that everyone can't always make this time of day, so we have another one in the evening on Thursday. So you can share with your friends or your colleagues that another meeting is coming up as well. And then we will also post a recording of this meeting. And so if you guys are interested, you can also join an email list. And that way we can also continue to provide you updates. But overall, we hope to have the plan completed before the end of this year.
Well, that's awesome. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a great question, Bev.
So are we done? I'm just
Oh,
curious.
I'm sorry. We are done.
Okay, very good then. Thank you very,
We are
very
done.
much.
We're just staying on in case anyone has questions or comments. But yes, the formal presentation is over and you guys can go have your lunch.
Thank you very much. Aloha now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we can end it now, Shelley.
Okay, I will end the meeting and I'll email you a link to the recording.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.